Hello, Coolmanager29 here with another Topic of the Week video. And this week I'll be discussing Batman the Animated Series. Easily my favorite show as a child. I literally obsessed over this show when I was a kid. That even when reruns were showing, if I knew they were coming on while I was at school, I would beg my mom to record it on a VHS so that I could watch it when I got home. Even if I'd seen the episode 20 times. I was obsessed. And, you know, in more recent years when I was at college, I decided to rewatch the animated series to see if it held up to my childhood nostalgia. And oh boy, did it. This is one of the most interesting superhero shows ever made, simply because of how good it is. It came out in the early 90s, 92, 93 is when it was airing. And it's so amazing how good it is. Heart of Ice, one of the best episodes of the series, won a freaking daytime Emmy. That's how good this show is. It won an Emmy. But anyway, this week's topic was submitted by helbertinelli, and her topic is talk about Batman the Animated Series. Your favorite episode and least favorite episode. Also, what's your opinion on the characters of Batman the Animated Series, both heroes and villains? And lastly, what do you think of the portrayal of Bruce and Zatanna? I can't narrow this down to simply my favorite episode, because there's so many good episodes. Heart of Ice, Perchance of a Dream, POV, Zatanna, Silicon Soul, or Silicon Heart. But, and Joker's Fish, I mean, there's so many good episodes in this. It's mind-boggling. Like, I mean, sure, there are a couple bad episodes. I've got Batman in My Basement, which is pretty much the divide of Batman the Animated Series. Then there's The Underdwellers, which was just an entirely underwhelming, just weird episode. But overall, they're almost nothing but good episodes, and it blows my mind that the show had 85 episodes and maybe a handful weren't that good. It's absolutely astounding, the quality of this show. I mean, if I had to pick some of my personal favorite episodes, I mean, I definitely have to put Zatanna on there. POV is definitely one of my favorites because I love Renee Montoya and I love Harvey Bullock. They're two of my favorite characters in this series. So them interacting is great, and them both being in this was fantastic. And I love those episodes that have different conflicting point of views. Like one person is like, this happened, and then they show what they think, and then it changes changes slightly depending on who's telling the story. And you had just a regular officer, Renee Montoya, and Harvey Bullock, all having conflicting ideas of what's going on. Though what's really funny though is that it actually, if I remember the episode correctly, it's been a while since I've watched it, because I haven't really watched it since I bought Volume 1 a while back. But I do remember it showing what actually happened in the flashbacks, along with the incorrect narration from, the people involved. Silicon Soul, oh my gosh. That episode was just, oh my gosh. And the Demon's Quest. I mean, literally, I'm just looking at the list of episodes, and I'm just like, I like that one, and I like that one. Oh, What is Reality? Almost Got Him. Oh my gosh, Almost Got Him is such a great episode. That little lighthearted episode with the villains. And of course, how can we forget the meme tick? Hit him with a rock. It was a big rock. I just can't even, I don't want to gush too much, but the show is just that good. And it's absolutely, it is astounding. It created, it's one of the most definitive versions of Batman. Oh my gosh. What was that one? What was that one episode? Where Ivy, was it House and Garden? Yeah, House and Garden, which was, oh my gosh, one of the most heartbreaking episodes for Poison Ivy. And I can't even get over how many good episodes there are in this. But, I mean, just listing a few is even hard, just because there's so many that I want to include. If I had to include my favorite episodes, I would probably end up picking like 50 episodes. And that really speaks to the heart and soul that went into this. Now, I do also have to specifically mention that when I say Batman the Animated Series, I'm referring to the first 2 seasons. Basically, if you bought the DVD sets, it would be volumes 1 through 3. The first 85 episodes, and excluding the New Adventures, which is mixed at best in quality. And I have numerous issues, especially when it comes to other things in the movies, but this is about the original. This is what I watched when I was a kid, and what I remember the most. I guess I watched a little bit of the New Adventures, but I don't really remember hardly any of it, mostly because it wasn't all that great, and the original run is by far superior. And oh my gosh, don't even get me started in the movies of Mask of the Phantasm and Sub-Zero. But this is asking about the series proper, so I won't get into that. So what are your opinions on the characters? Well, first off, we have to start talking about Batman. One of the things that a lot of people like to talk about, and one of the things that's the best thing about this Batman, is that this Batman, while he's still dark and broody, we see the kindness and the soul of Batman. And we see that Bruce Wayne is capable of such incredible kindness, despite the fact that he's a hardened, vigilante. And we see that he is capable of caring about people, even if he sometimes lets his broodiness and darkness overtake him sometimes. When we see these things, and sometimes a lot of interpretations of Batman get this wrong, is that Bruce is a very caring person. He's not a rabid killer. He doesn't go around, beating people up just to beat people up. He doesn't do things for the sake of doing things. He wants to help people. And they got that with this. And it's so enjoyable watching it. Just because it has that human element that a lot of versions of Batman miss. A lot of them are, I'm Batman. I can do everything because I'm Batman. And it just misses the point. But we do have to say, it's kind of funny looking back at this, that his outfit being just, basically a cloth or spandex. It's kind of funny because, you kind of get used to the more modern versions that have actually stepped things up and have him wear actual armor, and his cape is a makeshift and also works as a glider. And it's funny because he actually does, use the glider, a specific glider in Batman the Animated Series, because that hadn't really come out much in but I'm just glad that the glider cape has been mostly accepted into all modern versions of Batman. But it's funny looking back at that and seeing the stuff that's not in it, and his outfit gets torn by simple weapons. And I do think that it's funny because Batman is usually portrayed as so hyper competent. In this, he's still competent and he's still dangerous, but he's not nearly as efficient. And part of me likes that. Part of me likes to just see Batman kick butt. But I do like the fact that they did make him human. Now, as for Alfred, love Alfred. The sheer snark. Good gosh. The snark in this show from Alfred is absolutely astounding. It's fantastic, and I love Alfred in this. And granted, I can't go over every single character, because there's so many good characters. But I'd be making a huge mistake if I didn't mention Mr. Freeze. And I just have to mention Mr. Freeze because before Batman the Animated Series, Mr. Freeze was just one of those gimmicky villains. He was a guy whose whole thing was ice, right? His name is Mr. Freeze. And then Batman the Animated Series comes along and it's like, hey, let's give him a horribly tragic backstory. And the whole thing about his his cryogenically frozen wife, and explain why he's wearing this suit. And there's a reason why this version of Mr. Freeze has endured for all this time. It's why Batman's or Arkham City based their version of Mr. Freeze so heavily on this. Even Batman and Robin even understood this. Even if they tried to mix the campy version with the traumatic version, which didn't work, even they understood that that is an excellent, that's such a great change to his character, and it gives him so much more depth that it makes him just 100 times more interesting. And Mr. Freeze became one of, if not the most sympathetic villain in Batman's Rogues Gallery. He's just, you want him to be happy. You really want to root for him. I'd also have to talk about Harley Quinn, who was invented for the show and ended up becoming one of the most enduring characters in Batman, mythos. Even if in recent years she's been completely distorted from her original character. Batman animated series version will always be fantastic. I mean, it's so great seeing the fact that her whole relationship with the Joker is portrayed as a tragic abuse story, and that you really want her, you really want to root for her to get away from the Joker, and just to break that cycle of abuse, and want her to be her own person. And she's just, and even if she does messed up stuff, you really want her to recover. And honestly, you feel that way for a lot of Batman villains. When it comes to some of the other heroes, let me rack my brain here specifically on who I want to talk about. Commissioner Gordon is good. Barbara Gordon is good for the handful of times she appears in the regular series. And then she becomes more regular in the New Adventures, but I'm not going to talk about the New Adventures. The villains, some of the villains I absolutely really like, especially like Riddler. But one thing I really need to talk about with some of these is one of the few issues that I actually have with Batman the Animated Series. Mainly that status quo is God, and it follows that to a painful degree. There are 3 episodes that I can think of off the top of my head. Harley's Holiday, the Riddler's... It was one about the Riddler. He made a lot of money. He was hired by a toy company. He was making money. He was widely recognized for his work, which is one of the issues from his original episodes, If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich? That, he got recognition, he got money for his work, he had supermodels hanging off of him. Like, what more could the guy want? And then you also had an episode with the Penguin basically redeeming himself, starting off a new life, and being, and just living as a socialite, and even managed to find a girlfriend. And you think these episodes are great because you actually see these, you see them wanting this life. Or even House and Garden with Poison Ivy. Most of these, you show the villain wanting to have a normal life, but circumstances force them to go back to being evil. Harley's Holiday was a big misunderstanding when she thought they were going to try to... It was just a misunderstanding that caused her to go crazy and end up getting tossed back to Arkham. Then you had Penguin, a misunderstanding, finding out that his girlfriend was just dating him as a joke. But she actually did start caring about him, only for him to be like, I'm going to be evil again. And also the fact that Batman in the episode was kind of a dick, constantly hounding him. And of course that obviously didn't help when he turned back to being bad. Riddler was always, just playing a game to trick Batman. And then Poison Ivy literally created her own family just because she wanted that family. And it's so sad that these characters keep getting pushed back into being villains. Because there's a whole wide rogues gallery, and some of them, you know, wouldn't ever become good. But I just really wish that they let some of them be good, and if not more anti-villains, like, you know, Catwoman. Because I actually would really like to see Penguin just run the Iceberg Lounge, you know, doing some dirty stuff, but nothing, you know, extreme. He's not, you know, killing anyone, but, you know, just stuff like that. But sadly, it never really allowed for its characters to evolve past that. We get some good. I mean, we do get some great origin stuff, like Robin's Reckoning, when we find out the whole story of the death of the Flying Graysons and Bruce adopting Dick and you know, trying to find the killer. It's, oh my gosh. Out of all the episodes in the entire series, when I was rewatching it, Robin's Reckoning is by far the most nostalgic. I had to like pause the episode just because I was having such a wave of nostalgia. Like, certain shots in that just like were burned into my mind as a kid, and seeing them again, it was almost surreal. Like, it was like a childhood dream, like, come true. And it's like, but it was like, I remember just watching this episode when I was a kid, and oh my gosh, I just have so many feelings about this. I'm seeing, and I'll talk a little bit about Bruce and Zatanna, seeing, you know, the backstory that Bruce trained with Zatanna, Zatanna's father, and you know, we see the shared history there. We see his training in Japan, come back I think it was a couple times. Excuse me. And he does so good with its characters. And despite the fact that it's very episodic and occasionally builds up bigger plots, but for the most part remains episodic, it's shocking how well it developed a lot of its characters. Even if they weren't allowed to develop too much, especially the villains. It's so great to see the stories that they put out were so top-notch. Oh, I can't even believe I forgot to mention this. The Grey Ghost. One of the best additions to Batman mythos was having his inspiration, you know, be the Grey Ghost, and having him voiced by Adam West. Oh, that was such a good episode. Oh, there's so many good episodes. I can't even keep this to a single video. There's so many good episodes. I do like, though, I don't think I talked about Dick Grayson much. But I do like Dick Grayson in this. He's, I guess he's college-aged. Because I know in some episodes it shows him in college with Barbara. You know, and I did like his little relationship with Barbara. I kind of wish they did a little more with him and Barbara. You know, unfortunately, future elements of canon were awful to say the least, because just let Dick and Barbara be together. But I like seeing, you know, their relationship, especially in costume and out of costume. Yeah, that was good too. But yeah, I think there's so many good things with the characters. Now, as for Bruce and Zatanna, Batman the Animated Series was my first proper introduction to Zatanna, and as such, this is kind of the benchmark of what I see for Zatanna. Now, having read some comics, I haven't read extensively, but I've seen the numerous stuff with the comics, and I just absolutely adore Bruce and Zatanna. I mean, this is what got me shipping them in the first place, was watching the episode Zatanna. And what really got me in this was, you know, the fact that back when Bruce trained with Zatanna, he was going under the name of John. So Zatanna knew Bruce as John, she didn't know him as Bruce Wayne. And by the end of the episode, she figures out that Batman is John. And my favorite thing about this is that, you know, we flash back to their backstory, and it's clear that Zatanna was in love with him. But when she figures out that John is, you know, Batman, she straight up was like, hey, okay, I get it. I'm not going to pry, but I understand that horrible things must have happened that led you to this. And she totally respected his privacy, and it's so refreshing, really, seeing that. And honestly, I think this might have been the first time that Bruce and Zatanna were actually tied so closely together in terms of backstory. And I do know that some canons afterwards would even go so far as to make them childhood friends, along with Thomas, a douchebag, Elliot Thomas. But I did love that, and I just love that relationship between them. I mean, I talked about Bruce's relationship, or Bruce's portrayal in this, and you also see Zatanna, and while she's got that super sassy attitude, and her her more quirky skills, and in this version it doesn't show her actually using magic, though it does in the the Gotham City Sirens little web cartoon that did it. But yeah, in this one it doesn't show her using magic, unlike her Justice League counterpart. But it's still great just to see Zatanna, and she's such a great character in this, and it really kind of baffles me when other versions of some of the comics just crap on her. Like, don't even get me started on Identity Crisis. I'm just glad Paul Dini managed to clean that mess up and made Bruce and Zatanna be able to come to common ground over that trite. But I love the portrayal of this, and seeing that is really what made me fall in love with them as a pairing. And just seeing how well they work together, and even reading some of the other comics, definitely by Paul Dini, seeing that relationship, I love it, but I don't want to get too off topic here. Just start ranting up my shit. I love the portrayal of Bruce and Zatanna in this. And I also love that they didn't try to force it. That's something that, like, when it comes to Bruce and Selina was so forced. That's another issue I have. It was Bruce and Selina was so forced in Batman animated series that it was just like she was definitely propped up as one of the main love interests. I mean, even Talia was better in that case because she wasn't really pushed. She came in a few times, but she wasn't really pushed as much as Selina. And I did like that when Zatanna came in, it wasn't like, hey, look, this is our official couple. It's more of a, hey, look, they're cute and adorable. And, they respect each other and stuff. And it didn't really try to push it. And I did like that. And, if you're not really going to end up with any canon, because really, there's so little, there's continuity, but there's very little in the way of overarching story. So we don't really get a whole lot of, returning elements too often. We still get those, but it's more rare than anything. It's more uncommon than just having an episodic approach. But yeah, I just like it if they leave stuff like romance more open ended in that case. If they're not going to actually make anything, concrete. And I did like the way they settled that in the episode. And even though Zatanna only had one episode in Batman animated series, it is definitely my favorite. And it was what I generally base my, I use as a benchmark for a portrayal of Zatanna when I'm seeing any other version of her. Well, I think that's mostly it. I ranted about one of my favorite shows ever. One of my favorite superhero cartoon shows ever. I don't know. Honestly, it's hard to say, especially with this, comparing to Green Lantern animated series or Beware the Batman and stuff like that. But yeah, I love this show so much, and I'm missing Volume 3. Should probably get that. I bought these and I rewatched some episodes, and oh my gosh, the nostalgia. The nostalgia is so hardcore. Anyway, I think that's it for today. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, I'll put that up here when I get that done. If you want to submit a topic, and please do, feel free to submit topics. If you're on YouTube, you can simply comment below, or if you're on Tumblr, or if you want to go to my Tumblr, you can send me an ask and do topic, and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Just make sure you follow the rules that I'll post below on both Tumblr and YouTube, and make sure that it's about something fictional, and even if it's a meta example, whether talking about the writing itself, the writers, the game mechanics in a game, all sorts of stuff. And if you're unsure of if I'm familiar with it or would want to talk about it, just ask me, really. I'll tell you if I'm familiar with it or not. But anyway, yeah, thank you for watching.